everybody. Good evening. It's Dr. Sarah Gordon of the PhD Journey Unplugged Podcast, and I'm coming on here tonight by myself. I've had several guests this past month, and I'm very excited. I've been lining up really great, extraordinary people who are coming on the show, um, pretty much March, April, and going into May, booked with guests that personify leadership and health and human performance. But every once in a while, I want to come on here and I want to share my voice and share my thoughts and give you an opportunity to get to know me a little bit better. So again, my name is Dr. Sarah Gordon. I am the founder of the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. I am excited to say I've turned this into an LLC, so I'm now the owner of the PhD Journey Unplugged. And I envision using this platform to always educate and motivate within the health and human performance framework. Always talk about mental health, physical health, social emotional health, and how we can live our best lives and just be a voice that just is a reminder to never give up on yourself and to believe in yourself. So, with that said, tonight I am going to call this the philosophical pause. And when I get on here by myself, I'm gonna be philosophical about things. It really is truly my nature in my life. So I think it's important to just be authentic and genuine with that, and reflect on things. And what I want to talk about tonight is the space between momentum, emotion, and activity, and then returning to activity. So the pause is that space between, activity, pause, and returning to activity. And maybe that pause looks like rest or recovery. Maybe that pause is just deep reflection. We live in a world that celebrates motion and progress and productivity and achievement. And believe me, getting my PhD, I mean, I'm goal-oriented and achievement-oriented myself. But sometimes we have to allow ourselves these moments to pause, to think a little bit, you know? And so it's kind of a simple, I can't think of the word. It's just a simple philosophy. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. And it kind of grew out of park benches, believe it or not. I was in um, England this past December, went to visit my son. And if you've ever been to England, there's so many beautiful park benches and gardens and just all over the place. And as you go about your life, you see them everywhere, right? These benches at the beach, in open spaces, and a lot of times they're, by lakes or some type of waterfront. I mean, they're a lot of times they're placed in areas where they allow you to sit and to reflect and to pause. So my son said to me, "Hey, Mom," because he knew I'm drawn to them. I take a lot of photography pictures of them, and he said, "Mom, why don't you write a poem about the bench?" And and I didn't write it, immediately, but it came to me in late January. I wrote it and decided to submit it to where I live. I live in the state of Delaware. There's a group called Delaware Bards, and they are publications of poets in the state of Delaware. I've been blessed to be in it since 2022, annually. And so I submitted this poem and it got accepted. So I'm excited to have it published. But it kind of gave me the idea to have this episode tonight and to talk about this pause. And I'll read you this newest poem that I wrote, and then we'll talk about, what that looks like, right? Philosophically, a pause is a moment to step away from performance and reflect on lessons that are found in stillness, growth, and on our journeys. You know, the last episode I had with Dr. Gregory Gibbons, we talked about the long game of human performance and how to sustain that over long periods of time. And I think to be productive and to accomplish these goals that we set out for ourselves, we have to allow ourselves these moments to pause. Okay. And sometimes we get we get great clarity in those pauses. It's hard for me to know what you might be going through in your individual life. Sometimes these pauses help us through grief. Sometimes they help us make big decisions. Sometimes we just need to sit there and rest. There's lots of different reasons why sometimes we just need to pause. Now, with that said, I also wanted to say, and I took some notes tonight to keep myself on track. Again, there's the motion, right? And that's life moving fast. Then there's the park bench, which is the pause. Then there's the insight that we find from whatever we're seeking in that moment, in that pause. And then we return. We return to activity. We return to some type of movement, some type of energy, some type of forward movement. And then, a lot of times we get clarity in that moment. Ultimately, we want to move forward towards, towards self-actualization, towards living quality of life, towards living healthy, active lives, to age with good health. It's not just about longevity, it's about your health span. So these are all things that if we allow ourselves some time in this pause, we might find that our lives may be a little out of balance. So I have figured that out recently for myself. A good friend of mine, we sat together poolside and talked for a good 45 minutes, paused, right? I got there to go swim my laps, and we just had a really good talk. And, in that talk, I mean, I'm a health promotion leader, and I found out through talking to her that there are some things in my life that are out of balance. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that pause. I'm grateful for that introspection, and I'm grateful to have had a friend who just, helped me get some clarity in that. Sometimes in your pause, you can be on your own, and sometimes you can be blessed to have somebody who can help you get some more clarity on your life. Now, philosophically, when we talk about reflection, Aristotle, this is many, many, many years ago, people were thinking about what the meaning of life was. They were reflecting on it, right? I don't think that we have stopped that. I hope not, because I think there's a lot of depth to questioning things sometimes and not just taking things just as they are. The Stoics, they believe that in stillness, you could find clarity, you know? And then we know from human performance that you can't go nonstop in zone 5, zone 4. You have to allow yourself recovery. If you push too hard all the time, you can get injured, or you can get burnt out, or just suffer fatigue. And when you suffer enormous fatigue, sometimes it puts in motion other things that really can downward spiral, like depression and anxiety and other things. So the pause that I'm talking about, it's multifaceted. It's a pause that can help you get clarity, mental clarity. It can give you physical rest, and it can just overall improve the quality of your life when you allow yourself some time to just sit and reflect. So I learned a lot of lessons on my PhD journey. It was the vision for this podcast, because I went back to get my PhD in my 50s. I didn't have to necessarily get my PhD. I had my master's degree. I was working full time, was a marketing director in an investment firm, and I had worked in the federal government. I mean, I had a whole career, but I really wanted to go back and study exercise science and health and human performance. And in my 50s, and I don't know at any age, I don't know if there's a perfect time to do anything. Even when you're younger, I think life gets like it gets busy. But I learned so many lessons on that journey. I learned that, when you don't set boundaries in your life, when you don't put yourself first to make sure you have good rest, and you set some non-negotiable time for yourself to make sure you get your exercise in and allow yourself time to think, even studying health and human performance, um, you can get sick. And I experienced that in one of my years in school when my health did suffer. So I think, and that's where I learned my lessons, and that was and is and will always continue to be the mission on the PhD Journey Unplugged, is to take those lessons and to be here authentically, openly, and say to people, I don't know what you're going through tonight, but don't ever give up on yourself and don't give up on your health. Take steps to move your life forward. Take care of yourself, rest and, physical activity too. So with rest. So anyhow, what I want to do is I want to read you this poem and give you a chance to listen to it and think about it. And then I'll talk a little bit about how it can be applied to our lives. And I hope this helps in some way. I hope tonight gives you some introspection for your own life. Now, like I said, tonight I'm on my own. Next week, I'll have Andrew Schubauer back on. We're planning a really great episode in terms of how do you cultivate enjoyment in your life and why enjoyment is so important in terms of sticking with things in your life and feeling complete satisfaction with your life. And then, like I said, in the month of March, I have some really wonderful people coming on who will demonstrate what being highly physically active looks like later in life. I have coaches coming on who are just leaders in the world of triathlon community and how these people demonstrate what successful aging looks like in terms of being physically active. And believe me, lots of people have obstacles in their lives. But I try to have people on the show who, despite the obstacles, there's something that we can learn from them because they never give up. And that's why I have them on my show. So with that said, I'm going to read my poem, The Bench. Okay, 1 second, please. Okay, I had to pause there for a second and let my dogs in here. Well, hopefully they'll be quiet and I won't have to pause again. Okay, The Bench. Every bench has a story, and every heart too, often shared in a moment by a pond, a lake, an open space, a beach, a garden, a park, and more, where the mind wanders and the body sits, safe to think or dream, cry or laugh, plan or meditate, talk with others, talk to self. The bench is giving for the human spirit to pause, to reflect, often made by man of metals, woods, or plastics. But sometimes nature too provides a place to rest, a tree stump, a fallen tree, a random spot where the story unfolds and rest takes place. Every bench has a story and every heart too. Through the seasons as lives pass by, one story after another, some happy, some sad, some hopeful, some troubled. Every heart has a story, every bench too. Stories kept in silence through laughter and through tears, smiles and fears. The bench sits patiently, waiting, providing, asking nothing in return, but to give the heart what the heart yearns for, with no expectations, judgment, or conditions. Two lovers enjoying the bliss of the day. an older gentleman whose spouse passed away, the young mother whose baby sleeps, the hurried businessman with just a minute's break. Stories unique in their own way. The bench becomes so much more than just a place to sit, for in the moment when the bench is needed, it becomes a friend, a confidant, a guide. Yet the bench never answers, at least in a human way. But the answers often come when our lives intersect and we sit upon the bench. So I actually, that poem, out of all my poems, and I've written a lot, and I'm not to brag, but it's just an outlet for me throughout my life. It's helped me through some hard times, and it's just a form of creativity because I enjoy being creative. And that one really touches me deep. Um, I think it gets at the human condition of life, right? I'm in a health promotion space, okay? I'm here to always remind you to take care of your mental health, your physical health, and the relationships in your life. There's a lot of information out there on how we can achieve top performance, how we can get stronger physically, mentally, how we can, do all the workouts and all the performance metrics and all the data. And believe me, I'm into all that stuff. I have my watch, I track my workouts. I love to know, my pace when I swim or I run or I bike. I'm into all the data, I'm into all the metrics. And I'm competitive. I enjoy, going after goals. But I think what this tonight and what this poem represents, the bench, is that sometimes if we are just in motion, okay, and we don't allow ourselves some time to reflect, then we don't really necessarily know if we're on the right path. Okay. Sometimes we have to just kind of look inward and just like do a reality check and just make sure that we are aligned in our life with the things that bring us enjoyment, bring us meaning and purpose in our lives. Some people are there and they've worked hard to get there, but not everybody is. And so my message tonight is just to think about that a little bit. Give yourself some space to think and recognize that that's okay. You know, the bench, the park bench, and as you go about your business, maybe you'll think about this episode tonight. Maybe you'll see a park bench. Maybe it'll have some kind of meaning to you after you listen to this episode tonight. Maybe you'll even sit and reflect. And I would love to hear from you if you do. But the bench, like I said in my poem, it's a neutral space. You know, there's no judgment, there's no expectations. It's just you and that space and that time and that moment. And it's a beautiful thing. So that's the way I see it. I also kind of love this idea that, and I talk about in my poem, that we all have our stories, you know? It's what makes us deeply human. I mean, I love AI, and don't get me wrong, I use it as a tool myself, but it can't replace the humanness in our stories and things that we've overcome in our lives and things that we've triumphed at and things that have broken our heart and things that we've grieved and things that we heal from and things that we cherish and we love. And so, all those things or just make us deeply human beings. AI can't replace that. Okay. AI can make us more efficient. AI can push us to think outside the box. It can help us write and create, but it can't create your story. And I think that the bench reminds us that we all have our stories. There's people who are less fortunate and sleep on a park bench. There are, like I said in my poem, people who are in love, getting married or celebrating an anniversary or sadly, going through a divorce. I mean, there's a lot of relationship things that go on when you sit on a bench. There's, like I mentioned, the young mother, with a child in a stroller, or, just being busy in your day and just sitting and pausing for a moment, maybe having lunch. So I love that. I love that the bench and the pause gives us an opportunity to just be to be part of our story, wherever we are in our lives. I also like this idea that the bench and that this pause helps us to heal, it gives us clarity from confusion and just helps us move forward in our journeys. So I love that. The pause isn't necessarily being lazy. It's not necessarily not being productive. It's just saying that, okay, I have all this stuff going on in my life. I mean, you should see my calendar. I have a paper calendar, I have a digital calendar. I have a lot going on in my life. Trust me. But allowing myself sometimes to go take a walk out on, in nature, or just let my mind just kind of rest. And it's just, it gives you, it energizes you to just get back and and be focused and go after those goals in your life. So I want to make that point. When I say the pause, allowing yourself to rest and just, sit down somewhere and reflect, it's not to give up. It's to come back and have so much more clarity um, on your life's journey. Now, what else did I want to say to you tonight? I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I guess I would just like to, ask you some questions to reflect on tonight. When was the last time you paused without distraction? I mean, we got a lot going on. Sometimes if, listen, I am guilty of this. If I sit down somewhere, I am on my phone, right? When's the last time we just sit, put our phones away and just sit quietly, you know? Somebody said to me once, and I agree with it, that when we allow ourselves some stillness and some quiet, a lot of times we can get the answers that we're looking for. So it's incredible how that happens. All right, here's some more questions to consider. When I'm talking about tonight, what does this mean for you right now? Okay, if you're struggling with something, some decision, trying to figure out how to move forward with something, maybe that pause between momentum and return is where you need to spend a little bit more time. How does this relate to performance? Academics, athletics, your professional life, your personal life. How does this relate to burnout, to growth, your inner peace, sustaining performance, your quality of life? I have to tell you that I gave the commencement address at graduation last May. It was such an honor. And it's actually the moment that I found my voice to be a motivational speaker. And I made a joke. I talked about climbing the mountain, and sometimes after you've climbed those big mountains in your life, when you get over them and you get some distance from them and you look back on them, you realize you're a changed person, usually for the better, when learn what you're made of in those hard things that you put yourself in. And I made a joke that, sometimes when you feel like quitting, sometimes when things feel overwhelming and you're just, you want to give up, that moment that you want to quit, sometimes you need rest. You need a pause. You need a nap, you know? And it helped me. So, if you're feeling that way tonight, maybe give yourself some time to rest. Okay? And then when you get back from that, it's like I said, it energizes you. So it's that's why I wanted to talk about this tonight. I think it's important to allow ourselves some stillness, within human performance. Okay. So I hope that tonight this is bring some introspection and some reflection for all of us. Okay. I'm looking forward to moving forward in the weeks to come. I have a very busy schedule for this show, and I will be moving through it with a lot of momentum. But I want to just remind and I'm excited to do that. But I just want to remind all of us, and I'll come on here once in a while on my own, to do this philosophical pause, to say that it's okay to sometimes not have all the answers, that sometimes we need to sit and be patient for the answers, and that, like don't give up on it, right? Sometimes things don't come to us right away, but that's not a reason to just give up on something. So that's it. That's what you got from me tonight. Um, yeah, I've been doing a lot on social media. I'm at Dr. Sarah Gordon, SarahGordon on Instagram. I try to do reels and I try to go down at sunrise and show the sunrise over the ocean. And it's deeply grounding for me. And I try to put it out there for other people to enjoy with different inspirational messages. So if you'd like to follow me on Instagram, and I talk about upcoming podcast episodes. The PhD Journey Unplugged also has a Facebook page, and it's just the PhD Journey Unplugged. You can find me there. And then the podcast episodes, they're on, I have this a YouTube channel, and it's on Spotify, excuse me, Apple Podcasts, and then these RSS feeds are like free feeds like iHeartRadio. There's a lot of them out there now. Castbox, Podbay, Raphonics, I believe it's called, Listen Notes. So there's lots of ways to listen to the PhD Journey Unplugged. And that's it. That's what I got tonight, everybody. I wish everybody Valentine's Day is tomorrow. And I just, I wish everybody just a ton of love. Don't give up and allowing your heart to stay open, to loving. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we get hurt, but, it's better to have loved and than to have never allowed yourself to love. And then, I think it's better to have loved and lost than to never have allowed yourself to love. So I think, hopefully I said that correctly. But, just reach out to people and ask other people how they're doing and just spread some love and kindness in this world. And I'll be back next week with Andrew Schubauer. And then I'm excited to launch a lot of fun things coming this spring. So, all right, everybody. As always, I am truly grateful to have the PhD Journey Unplugged. It's had some twists and turns since I launched it last May, but I am 100% devoted to it and maintaining my voice in the health promotion space. And yeah, we'll to continue this journey together. Okay. All right, everybody. Good night and God bless. And I'll see you soon. Bye.